Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative podcast, the podcast and talk show where we have digital discussions on the worlds of sports, TV, film, pop culture, social media, music, news, lifestyle, everything really, depending on the guest, we talk about it all. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis. On social media, you know me as PD Beats. We often like to feature interviews of hockey players, especially with the NHL draft around the corner. And we are speaking to a Boston University commit, played for the U.S. National Team Development Program, U18. We were with Tuch. Luke, welcome to Popternative, man.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. There's always going to be kind of a focal point in your career as a hockey player, whether it's Adam, Pee Wee. I know a lot of you. You and your brother probably started playing at a very young age. When did you kind of decide to take it seriously? Was it kind of like when in Adam, or was it more like you always knew you wanted to play hockey?
Yeah, I think growing up, I started really young. So I played lacrosse also, and I took that pretty seriously. And I think I ended lacrosse at about 8th grade, and that's when I got pretty serious with hockey. I think I was very serious growing up, but I think at that point I got even more serious with that, and then I moved away from home at about 15 years old, and that's when stuff got real.
Absolutely. Every year, the USA National Team Development Program always has great players that come into their programs. Every year it kind of changes. You got to play with a lot of amazing players such as Sanderson, Peterson, Bordelot, Slaggert, to name a few. Talk a little bit about that. It was obviously, a different year with COVID-19, but talk a little bit about what was that like in the room and the type of team you had in the National Team Development Program, Luke.
Yeah, I think everybody going in there to the program, no matter what year it is, everyone's big dog on their team in previous years. So I think everybody's level of competition and in practice is up there for sure. And when you go into the program, everybody starts at the same level. And I think you have to earn your way up the lineup from there. So it was unbelievable, playing with those guys. And I had a bunch of great teammates there. My whole team was unbelievable. So, I still keep in touch with them. And I definitely learned a lot from them, whether it was in practice or off the ice or in a game. So it was special for sure.
There's a lot of sky reports out there, whether you kind of pay attention to them or not. One of the things they kind of talk about is your ability to kind of put the puck in the net. Is that something that you kind of pride yourself on, being that kind of goal scorer?
Yeah, I'd say that for sure. I think being a power forward, an attribute of that is scoring as many goals as possible in any way, in any fashion. So whether it's in front of the net or with my heavy shot, I think I do have a touch to the net.
Absolutely. Your brother is becoming a very prominent player in the National Hockey League, specifically playing for the Vegas Golden Knights. Has that kind of been an inspiration for you? I mean, you've obviously been getting a lot of kind of lessons along the way from your older brother, but specifically kind of seeing what he's done in the National Hockey League playoffs. I mean, that must be kind of like a learning experience just watching him play on its own.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Alex has done a great job with that this year, and he had a hell of a playoff run, and I'm very proud of him for that. But I see him doing what he's doing in the NHL and putting up points like he is, and he's having a great time doing it. And so I definitely want to do that in the future.
One of the things they talked about your brother was when he got drafted in the National Hockey League, how he kind of he developed. It wasn't really rush type thing. Do you kind of look at that as kind of a model for you? What NHL team kind of drafts you, you're obviously going to go to Boston University and play. But obviously, there's kind of like it's all about the development. You know what I mean? There's not kind of no rush to immediately go pro, right, Luke?
Yeah, I think whenever you're ready, you're ready. I really don't have a time frame for when that is. Play it by ear, and obviously you have short-term goals along the way, so you got to reach those first.
In terms of training, how have you kind of been adapting to the whole COVID-19 kind of era? Because it's kind of an interesting situation, and some people were in situations where kind of they weren't able to kind of do all the training because gyms were not open type thing. But how at the beginning of quarantine for you, kind of training, I mean, was it okay for you? Did you have access to kind of some dumbbells? Did you have to kind of learn some off ice stuff that you weren't usually doing because you didn't have access to a gym? What was that like, Luke?
Yeah, early on, and when this whole thing came about, I had like a makeshift gym in my basement, and then I just like shoot pucks in the driveway, and Um, probably a month or two, I was in the basement, and then our rink opened up, and then our gym back home opened up. So I think I was in the gym and on the ice earlier than some other people were able to, which I'm definitely lucky for that.
They always say, like, what are you looking to do in the gym? And your answer will be like, oh, get bigger and stronger. You know what I mean? Is there something specific, though, that Luke Tuch is kind of working on in the gym? Like, is it arms, legs? Like, is there anything specifically that needs to be kind of worked on when you do off-ice training?
I think I'm definitely trying to improve on my speed, my quickness. So I think when I can get going, I can really move. But a big thing for me going forward is my quickness. Like my first three steps out of a corner are stop to start in the D zone. So that's going to be huge for me going forward.
Players that have kind of had success in the National Hockey League are players that are able to adapt to certain situations. When you play junior, there's situations where you might be kind of known as the goal scorer, but then if you kind of transition to pro hockey, you might have to get in a position in the early days where you're not really used to, like, a third line or more of a grinder. Have you ever thought about that? Because that's kind of what I feel like the pro game is becoming. Obviously, players want, players like yourself goal scoring, but if they could see you can help in other ways, then they're going to want you kind of to adapt to a different role. Have you ever thought about that transition to junior to pro, Luke?
Yeah, absolutely. I think maybe one year you're going to have a certain role on a team, then you go to next year and then you're going to have a completely different. So I think that's what makes a pro is your preparation for anything that comes at you, and anything's possible. So I think me being ready for that possibility even this year, I may be playing a different role on my team this year, which I won't be surprised about.
Absolutely. What I've noticed watching, your brother at Vegas Golden Knights, the rest of the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs, is how hard the game has become. That's kind of my takeaway. I'm watching this game. This is insane. You know what I mean? Like, they're going in the corners. Like, it looks like the hardest game on the planet, to be honest.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I think everyone's playing at such high of a pace, and everyone's hitting each other pretty hard. So I think the game is just getting more faster and skilled, but also the playoffs is a whole nother level of physicality.
Boston University has an amazing track record. You committed with other kind of teammates on your team, Dylan Peterson, who's a friend of the show, and also Drew Comesso, I believe at one point was committed to Boston University, the goaltender. Talk a little bit about your specific decision to commit to Boston University, because I'm sure at your age and the National Development Program, it's so sought after. A lot of schools are kind of talking to you. You have your options, but why did you choose Boston University, Luke?
Yeah, I visited a couple other schools, and I liked them a lot. And then I came here to Boston, and the facilities, the coaching, I love the city down here. So I'm actually here right now, which I love it so far. So I think it was a pretty easy choice for me, and I love it here.
Have you had a chance to kind of talk to your brother while obviously when he was in the playoffs? Was there something that he kind of told you about you kind of starting off at Boston University? I mean, it's a different transition from playing the National Team Development Program and going to play college hockey.
Yeah, he didn't really give me much advice. Actually, surprisingly, we don't really talk about hockey a lot. We more talk about like video games or what's going on every day. But yeah, he just said enjoy the moment. Don't take any day for granted, and you got to put in the work, because if you're not putting in work, then someone else is working a lot harder than you. So with the draft coming up, and he just said enjoy it, because it only comes around once in your lifetime.
It's funny that it's interesting that you kind of say that about you don't really talk about hockey, talk about other things, because I feel like there's kind of a stigma, a stereotype of hockey players that they're just eat, breathe, sleep hockey like all the time. But you guys are not just on the ice. You know what I mean? You have lives. You know what I mean? You have other interests and everything. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like that's kind of something that maybe not needs to be addressed, but like I feel like you know what I mean? There is more than hockey. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when it comes down to training and working out and skating, obviously you're really serious about that. But I think sometimes we do need to get away from the game sometimes. And, we are normal people. Like everyone thinks, oh, your brother plays in the NHL. But I'm like, yeah, he's just like, you and me. And he's a big kid too. So whether we talk about video games or fishing or, I don't know, anything, he's a normal person too.
Absolutely. You mentioned the NHL draft is around the corner. I mean, there's a lot of people that are kind of looking and putting you in a certain ranking in the top, 50, top 100. I mean, how important is it though not to kind of look at that ranking and just play your game and talk to people and just get drafted? How important? Because I feel like that is kind of something about social media that becomes a double-edged sword. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's not the best thing to kind of just like look at what everything everyone's saying on social media. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it was definitely more important this past season to not look at it. And going into the last season, you try not to look at the list. Obviously, you're going to see them pop up on your phone, but I think I did a pretty good job about that because, some people it gives them motivation, other people dwell on it, and I try not to worry about that. I try to worry about every day going to the rink and putting in work. So I think it was. Looking at it now, I could probably look at the list more. I'm actually not worried about it at all because it's been so long since the draft was supposed to be, but I'm just excited to share that moment with my family and my friends.
Yeah, like the time frame is completely different right now for the whole kind of NHL season. Has it kind of sunk in that you have to kind of adapt to it? Like it should have been in like June. It's going to be in October.
Yeah, I think it's kind of weird it being here, and my family's going to come out here for that, which is exciting. So, I want it to happen. It's going to happen soon. So, I think now the only thing I can worry about is next season.
Absolutely. I kind of mentioned on top before we wrap up. You're known as kind of a goal scorer. Who are some goal scorers that you kind of look at? Maybe not as inspiration, because obviously Luke Tuch wants to be Luke Tuch, right? You want to be your own player, but are there some specific goal scorers in the National Hockey League that have impressed you in the last couple of years?
Yeah, I really like how Jamie Benn's been playing. I think I play like him, and I try to mimic my style after him. So I love his big physical power forward presence, and I think he can bury the puck in many ways, and I think he showed that over this past playoff years.
No, absolutely. Well, Luke, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Where can people follow you on social media to keep up to date with everything?
My Instagram is LukeTuch37, and I think that's my Twitter also.
And very quickly, why should an NHL team draft Luke Tuch? What kind of player are they going to get with Luke Tuch?
Yeah, I think I bring a different presence to the ice. A combination of my physical speed and skill and shot is hard to find nowadays. So I think that would translate over to the NHL well. And
you have an NHL ready shot. Like obviously, like you do. It's a good shot.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And I know how long you guys work on those shots. I don't feel like people realize like those shots just don't happen overnight. Oh, he got stronger. He has a good shot. No. Like, can you address that? Like, you work hard on your shot.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a lot of time in the shooting room and in the garage.
Absolutely. Well, seriously, all the best for the NHL draft, man. Seriously.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
No problem. This has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. And until next time, this is Luke Tuch and Petey Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.